Hey guys, Thetcglover here. Can't review another video today. So today is going to be a little video just talking about Dragon Rulers in. I got a couple of replays that I had with my gadget deck where I kind of noticed sort of dragon players. Obviously, it was two videos where I beat them because I didn't really want to watch them OTK me in an instant. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to watch them play against me, and they made some ridiculous misplays. And obviously, now that I've had a chance to observe their hand, I can sort of talk about it and have an idea and sort of understand exactly why they did certain things, and you think, oh, they wouldn't really. I understand why they did that. I have to say that when I was playing them, I made some stupid misplays. I made crazy box. Obviously, I didn't have target. I didn't have EV in my grave, but I thought I'd make it anyway, and it didn't really pay out for me very well. But let's go through a couple of replays where I can show exactly kind of how I ended up winning the game. So. Okay, so here we have the first one, and as you can see, I opened up pretty well. But let's just slowly play through and see what happens. So, okay, let's go for it. So you see, I opened up pretty well. So I opened up pretty well, and I was quite happy about that. Opened up the Feral Imps play, which generally puts my hand back up to 6. By this point, I knew he was playing Dragon Rulers, and I was like, I should have changed Maxi to that. But I ended up just letting it go through. I was very fortunate to draw another Maxi, even though he let me draw like 7 cards, so no, 6 cards. So he goes ham a little bit and has to make up his hand a bit more. So he lets me draw. I think it's 3 cards because he makes Strike a Sack and okay, never mind. So okay, so I draw and I end up averaging back up to like 8 cards in hand. And that's kind of one of the first things. Yeah, so he card destructioned, and I basically drew the perfect hand. And obviously that's not his fault, but I mean, I drew so many great cards, and he played through Maxi. I mean, he couldn't really do anything else. I mean, he made Redox, which is great in defense modes. It's really good out to Maxi being dropped on you. You can just Redox and sort of saves your butt there. But overall, I drew really well, and not all the time. If I didn't draw as well as I did, then I don't think I would have come out on top of this, because you could see by his hand he had a Blaster, he had a Gold Sarko, and you know, my Imperial Iron Wall didn't really play out. So I go Gear Frame, and I do Chain Summoning, even though I don't have any gadgets in my hand to kind of play with it, but I ended up making Gigagan X anyway, just so I could fetch a gadget from my deck. So I go and get green, which goes and gets red, and I kind of Chain Summoning play. So I want to do kind of keep my hand up, because I was worried that I didn't have an out in my hand for Drakasak and so on, and I wanted them to get the title back into his hands so that I wouldn't have to deal with it later. So I set to go, and I thought, since my face down is Imperial Iron Wall, I thought I'd be in really good position to put all the cards back in his hand. Anyway, I draw. First thing I do is I Iron Wall, and he has Blaster for me, and then he Gold Sarks, and he gets a lot of things going. He used up a lot of cards in his hand, and he hasn't got a Rejuvenation for it, so it's a bit of a kind of overextension on his part, to be honest. Anyway, I Book of Moon the card that can attack, so he can't do anything else. And by this point, he Fiendish Chains my Gigagan X, which is a little bit silly because he knows what I can search with it, which would probably be Tin Goldfish. But generally, I would probably just Fiendish Chain the Emerald. But he was obviously worried that he would lose his Blaster. It's kind of a rookie play because you're not really thinking ahead, because you know, just the Emerald shuffling cards back in ultimately allows you to draw power cards rather than Gigagan X, which is controlled. So. Yeah. So I Chain Summoning and start going a little bit more ham. So I shuffle some stuff back in, which is cards like Tin Goldfish and Katsuko Kage, which can trigger off a green gadget or whatever gadget. So Monster 2 Ball and get stuff back, and I start trying to really get some advantage on him at the moment. I don't know why I did that play, but I knew that Crimson Blader was the best play at that point, because I knew that since he only had 2 cards in hand, my Crimson Blader wouldn't be a waste, because if he did Veiler it, then he'd put himself in a really good position just to ram through it and then ram through all of my stuff, and I wouldn't have anything follow up on it. So I was very lucky that he didn't have a Veiler, in some sense. It just depends on when you actually use the effect. Yeah, so by this point I pretty much established most of the field, and by this point he's just trying to kind of survive, because I had Mexi again. He's obviously got very pissed off at me by this point. So he plays through it all, and he's trying to push as much as he can. So he banished... Does he banish it? No, he goes Redox. He tries to keep going. Lets me draw quite a few cards. He knows by this point that he's going to have to make a play, otherwise he'll lose. So he tries to go ham with big monsters, even though you think, oh god, you wiped out all of my monsters in one turn. You do realise I have like 10 cards in hand. And that's his fault completely for having to play through it. If he managed his resources a little bit better, then he would have definitely won this game. So obviously I have the whole nuts in my hand, so I can go completely off. So I go King of the Pharaoh Imp, search, search, search. I just have so many plays I can do now. So I make Haraju Crest because I had it in my decks, in my extra decks. I thought it'd be quite a useful card to have, and it does prove to be very, very handy. You know, I can copy Maestroke in this case, or copy Pharaoh Imps, or I can copy Big Eye or the Dragazak, and it does quite a lot of fun things. So it makes Dragazak vulnerable, so I can ram into it while it doesn't die because it's got the effect of Dragazak. So I summon Crimson Blader with Redox, which pretty much ultimately seals the game for me. He puts Blaster back in his hand, he can't summon it. I draw Imperial Iron Walls, so it's basically the ultimate lock. He can't. The only thing he can do now is Blaster and kind of hope that he can get out of it, but he can't. So he just, you know, he obviously breakthrough skills my Blader, thinking that it's going to make a difference, but it doesn't. So on my turn, I basically have the win. So by this point, I attack through, and he's already lost. So there's nothing you can really do. So I attack for game. Okay, let's move on to the next one, and the next one was a bit longer. Okay, so here's the second game, and he opened up first and played Super Rejuvenation. He was a much better player than the other guy. Generally, I think he had a bit more experience with the deck, and he ended phase Rejuvenation to draw 2 cards. Hopefully, you know, you kind of think I'd much rather have drawn, you know. Anyway, that kind of put a span in my works. I realised that if I made Casco Card Gate, it would have hurt me a lot later. So I left it for then and kind of took some damage. So I drew some stuff, and he let me draw again, thinking that he could probably OTK me in one turn. So he tries to attack for everything, and I Gauze, so to stop him from OTKing me in one go. And he makes Big Eye, takes the Emissary of Darkness token. The reason why he did that, in my opinion, is because the Emissary of Darkness token counts towards the token count for Dragazak, so it doesn't die. You have to get through the 2800 to get to the 2600. That can make more tokens. Yeah. Anyway, at this point, I did realize that my extra deck was missing Master Blades. I put it in there, and I don't know why it's not in there. So when I summoned Redox, which I'm going to do right now, I get very, very like, oh my god, I can't believe it's not in there, and I would have had a much better field by this point. So I make Redox and make it, check for my extra deck, realize it's not there, and I just kind of go off from there trying to make plays. I realized by this point that if I had a Thunderspark Dragon, the one that you can detach free and destroy cards in the field, very, very handy card, and I usually have it in my extra deck in real life when I'm playing this deck, but not in DM, because it's not DM Dev Pro, because of the lack of extra deck space I have on there. So I make Crazy Box thinking I could get lucky and blow some stuff up, but end up rolling a 1. So yeah, that really hurt me a lot, but I ended up coming up with a win for this game. So I thought I would plow through his Cayenne, because that would prove to be quite handy to do that at that point, rather than wait later for him to ram over all my stuff. So he tries to destroy Crazy Box, and yeah, Blaster comes out, all that stuff comes out, he tries to make more stuff. So he makes Crazy Box, ended up rolling a 1 as well, which is quite weird, because I think there's a probability. What is the chances of 2 people rolling a 1? You know, it's like 1 in 36 chance or some ridiculous thing like that. So they both roll a 1, which, you know, halves both of our life points. Obviously my life points was less at the point, so it hurt him a lot more. Yeah, so I go double summon, trying to make some presents, and I end up making Alphaditch, which is a card that you can attach a material, and it reduces all non-earth monsters by 500 points. No, is it 500? Yeah, so it makes him the strongest monster on the field, and obviously Crazy Box can't attack, so it doesn't count. So by this point, my Gauze is still stronger than everything else. So I make some more stuff, make Dire War, thinking I could push through everything. Obviously, I know Crazy Box is completely It's just there and it's never going to be a problem, so I ended up just killing everything else. So I make Fortress thinking if he Draco-sacks it, I still get to discard a card out of his hand. If he tries to ram over it with something like Blaster, it still gets to kill him. So it's a very big nuisance for that deck to have to deal with. So he does a typical play trying to get some advantage. By this point I'm at 1200 life points and I'm getting quite worried. So I go Heavy Storm, and obviously it negs myself quite badly. I'm quite worried by this point, but I make a Redox to kind of save my ass a little bit. First point I was kind of worried that he would have the advantage. So he draws into Tsukiyomi, which he ends up using later. And he summons some stuff and ends up making Draco-sack. Yeah, by this point I'm like, oh god, okay. But anyway, I drew into Fortress, which is very handy. So I blow up token, get myself some damage, take it out. So I thought I'll be okay as long as I can keep this up. I was really worried as for, judging by the fact that he's got 3 cards in hand and stuff, I was pretty sure I was going to lose this. So anyway, he banishes 2 of his Dragon Rulers to actually search to, so he can go a bit more off, but he'd have to... There's not much else he can do. So I'm guessing he's run out of all of his Xyz monsters, and he was running out of cards in his deck by this point as well. So I breakthrough skill his... Oh yeah, it's a really good play. So I breakthrough skill his Blaster, because I knew that if he were to put Blaster back in his hand, then all he would have to do is Blaster my Redox, and then he would have game. So I knew that if I kept Blaster on the field, then he wouldn't be able to run over it. He wouldn't have any more Xyz monsters left to summon, and I could just do Imperial Iron Wall. However, he does have the unfortunate Royal Decree, which puts a lot of spanner in the works, to be honest. So anyway, Tempest and Redox and all that stuff, and he Dark Holes, and I thought, oh god, he has game. So if he summons it, then it flips itself back down. So I see. That's very, very clever. I didn't thought of that. So I top deck Pot of Avarice like a bitch, and I put some stuff back in thinking I could draw. Anyway, I drew Book of Moon, which basically saves me quite a lot. So he sets, what was that? The Skill Drain and EV. And I go Green Gadget, Summon, Casco Kage. I get quite lucky with my draws by this point, so I Papillo in into attack mode, he flips it down. I Redox, put it back on the field, attack Tsukiyomi. So I thought by this point he'd have to kind of summon some big monster by this point. So he ends up using Burial and putting stuff back in. By this point I was like, oh god, he's going to attack me now. I had Book, but I thought if he makes enough monsters, he's going to beat me. But I realised that obviously I can just Redox. So he summons Lightning. I don't know why he summons it in attack mode. So I flip my Redox down so that he takes damage. So I thought any damage is good damage by this point. So I flip it up. I summon Machina Fortress in attack mode and I attack into that. Anyway, on his turn he ends up doing that. And by this point I realised because he has 7 cards left in his hand, in his deck I mean, he's running out of cards. He's realising that his resources are really dwindling by this point. So he's just going to have to attack. There's nothing he can do, just keep ploughing through resources. But he did get down to 350 life, so... he summons Redox, and he knew he has Veiler in his hand, so that's what he does. So I was like, oh god, okay, so I summon that, set MST, because I knew that on his turn I could draw. So I Hisui Rejuvenation, and then I chain MST. And he scoops the game by there. So it's very good. Imperial Iron Wall really proves itself to be a really good card. You know, provided that you can keep Royal Decree and Blaster off the game, the board. So Iron Wall can actually do what it does. But you know, it's like I can win like 500 games and then I can lose 1,000 games and then say I'm a good player, but it doesn't really mean anything because I have lost quite a few games against Dragon Rulers. But if I were to side against them, then my matchup would be a lot better than I'm, as you can see here. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time guys, the Thetcglover is out.